Hi, welcome to the Capitol Report. Again, I'm Nick Halter, and I'm joined today by Representative Sheldon Johnson. Representative, nice to be here with you today.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you very much.
One of the things that Sheldon does in the House of Representatives is he's the chair of the Telecommunications Committee, and that committee deals with a lot of the cell phone regulations and things like that. Recently, there was a fairly important bill that you introduced, and can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's called the Kelsey Smith Act, and it came from Kansas. And it came from a tragedy that occurred there where a young person who had been at a Target had been kidnapped and, as it turned out, murdered. The family wanted to get a hold of, try to find out where their child was during this period of time from when she was kidnapped to when they found the body again, and they were unable to do so. What they tried to do was get cell phone location information from the provider to find out where she was via her cell phone. Again, the problem was that the parents were unable to get the cell phone location information from the provider, and they went through a lot of work to pass a law in Kansas to make it more easy to get that done. What we're doing in Minnesota is a very similar thing, is that we're making it similar to Kansas, that requiring wireless communications companies, cell phone companies, to turn over cell phone call location information when a law enforcement agency requests it, when there's an emergency such as a risk of death or serious injury. So that's essentially the bill that occurred in Kansas after this unfortunate tragedy that occurred there. And we wanted to pass that bill here in Minnesota as well, so that sort of tragedy doesn't occur here.
Yes, and we had the pleasure of being joined by the young lady's parents, and her name was Kelsey Smith, and her parents were Greg and Missy. And I think it's important to mention that for 4 days they fought with their cell phone company in order to get these records. Now, some folks might not understand quite how this works, but there's some confusion about whether or not there's law that already makes them do this or not. Can you explain what this does that changes federal law?
Right. Currently, in Minnesota, the way it occurs, and actually throughout the country, unless a state has passed a law, federal law is what guides whether this kind of information, what we call pings or cell phone signal information, is made available. Federal law says that cell phone companies or wireless communications companies may provide this information. What this bill does is direct cell phone companies and says that they shall provide, so it becomes something that they must do rather than can do. So that was really the essence of the change. And I think it's important to keep in mind, because we spent a lot of time working on this with people that are interested in issues of confidentiality, because issues of security around telecommunications is an important issue that we want to pay strong attention to. So we want to make sure in the bill that the only people that can request this are official public law enforcement folks. And the only time you can request the information is when there is an emergency situation that looks like there's a risk of death or significant injury, and then the information only goes to the law enforcement folks. And they're not getting any calling history, they're not getting any content of the conversation, there's no wireless, no tapping of phones or anything like that. It's just the cell phone ping location. Pings are just the pings that go off the cell phone towers, and they're
constantly being emitted, right?
Constantly being every 2 minutes, a cell phone that's on has that pinging with these cell phone towers, and they're able to triangulate with the cell phone towers a general location of where the cell phone was located.
Yeah, and another thing in the telecommunications aspect that's going on right now is there's some long-term plans for broadband. Can you tell me a little bit about what's going on with broadband internet?
Well, we've been pushing real hard with some folks, both the provider community, the industry, city and county officials and the like, to ensure that we have broadband access universally throughout the state of Minnesota and at speeds that are competitive both nationally and internationally. So we're working with a task force to ensure that over the next 5 years in particular, that Minnesota ranks high both in terms of access, of availability of broadband, and also in the speeds that are there.
Why is having broadband internet so important for Minnesota?
Well, it's become more of a essential than a need, and that's kind of how everyone's looking at, whether you're looking at medical care, how you interact with the government, how you interact with your friends in a social network way. It's become something that is really required for economic reasons as well, for communities, states, and for families to make things work in this 21st century.
All right. Well, Representative Johnson, I appreciate you being here with us today.
It was a great opportunity.
All right. Thanks for joining us.